let's look at some practical examples where we can really see some of the pitfalls that organizations have faced when it came to this interaction, as well as some key takeaways and insights that we can really glean from this. So the first one, and it's one that unfortunately, it's a great example, but Shamaa and I love to talk about it because it's very rich in learnings. It's a great example of what you should and shouldn't do when it comes to cybercrimes and data breaches. But it's what we call the Uber case that happened quite recently. I want to say, but the fallout of it really occurred last year. So this case is quite a long case, and Shamaa is really going to go through the timeline, and we'll pick up some key things from the case.
Thanks, Lisa. So you can see this timeline is quite lengthy. It happened over a space of 8 years, but everything kicked off in 2014. So Uber had a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, that was appointed in 2014. And ironically, the guy was a former state prosecutor. So no forgiveness there. But he was appointed as the CISO for Uber, and he also appointed what we call ethical hackers. So ethical hackers, it's an actual job title. Lots of major banks around the world have them in place, including many South African banks have them operating, and they're just there to do vulnerability testing, or they search for weaknesses in your IT infrastructure. And in 2014, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, they are the equivalent of the information regulator in South Africa, but they operate and monitor compliance with data protection and information security laws across America. And the FTC, when they get involved, you must know it's quite a serious event if they get involved in an investigation. So there was a data breach that occurred at Uber's on Uber's infrastructure, and the FTC got involved and they started to investigate their security program and their practices, just to see if they had sufficient measures in place to protect their infrastructure from harm and from unlawful attacks by a cyber criminal. Then in 2016, this investigation was still going on, but the ethical hackers that Uber had employed, they picked up certain weaknesses. That's what vulnerability discoverability is about. It's where your ethical hackers pick up weaknesses in your system. So when they pick up weaknesses in your system, they usually flag it with the CISO, and the CISO is supposed to report this. According to the FTC rules, they are obligated to report it and explain what measures they've taken to guard against any attack coming in from this weak point that was identified. So unfortunately, the CISO decided that, you know what, we're just going to sweep this under the rug and we'll do what we need to do internally to protect our systems, but we're not going to report this to the FTC. They're already investigating us and we're not going to mention this. Then a year later, no idea what really triggered this, but then they just decided, you know what, we're going to now disclose this. So now obviously you were like poking a bear. The FTC now suddenly says, if you picked this up last year, why are you reporting it now? And then it triggered another wave of investigations against them. And so within the space of another 2 years, what happened is that the CISO became so disruptive in this investigation process, trying to sweep things under the rug, trying to silence the ethical hackers, and really, obstructing the investigation in many ways. And so I think essentially the hackers got really tired of the CISO, and because they were being charged with obstructing an investigation, they entered a plea bargain with the FTC and they came clean. They pled guilty to conspiring to commit extortion involving computers, and they gave up the CISO in that instance, and they entered into a plea agreement. Then in 2020, what happened is that an independent source lodged a complaint against against Uber CISO, and then for the first time in 2022, in the space of another 2 years, a federal jury convicted Uber CISO for obstructing a federal investigation and for deceiving the federal government to cover up a breach that occurred all the way in 2016. Because when this breach was discovered in 2016, it was a vulnerability that was discovered, and it eventually led to hackers realizing, oh, there's a weak point for us to enter, and then it resulted in a breach anyway. And because the CISO covered up that data breach all the way in 2016, over the space of all the years, all the evidence piled up against the CISO, and he was convicted for obstructing the investigation. So there's lots and lots of lessons that we can learn from here.